What's up, PTB Nation? Welcome to yet another episode of Parking the Bus Euro Edition, Euro 2020. It is a day 10. I'm going to be joined in just a little while by Fade My Place. He's going to be joining us tonight. We're going to talk about today's matches, and we're going to talk about some of the other topics going on in the competition. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the matches the past few nights as well. First and foremost, though, I want to wish a happy Father's Day to each and every one of you listening, all the fathers out there across the United States and Canada as well. I believe they're celebrating it today as well. Thank you for spending part of your Father's Day here with me. And let me tell you, I told my son today, of everything I do in this world, of everything that I have and everything that I am, the thing that I'm happiest and proudest of is being a father. And this is a day for all of us. So to everybody, happy Father's Day. How y'all doing? How is it going? All right, we've got Group A is complete. It is all done. Group A has finished. We've got Italy, we've got Wales, and most likely Switzerland advancing. I have to wait a little while to see. Okay. Another solid performance, I would say, from the Azzurri today. Not as fantastic or not as spectacular as we had been seeing, but no doubt a very solid performance. And, you just saw them take care of business. And we saw Roberto Mancini giving a lot of guys a chance to play today that had yet to get that chance. Okay, we even saw the backup goalie get to go in today. I'm going to talk about all that. Also, there was the other match, Switzerland and Turkey. The Swiss come through in a must-win, which leaves us asking, what happened to Turkey? Can anybody tell me what happened to Turkey this tournament? Everybody had them as a dark horse. I think I even had them advancing. Not entirely sure anymore. I don't remember. It was a long time ago when I filled out that card. But I think I might have even had them advancing out of this group stage as a third-place team. 0 points for Turkey. That is quite a disappointing turn of events for them. And you have to wonder what went wrong, because they were on such a good run of form leading up to this. They were on such good, they were getting results. They were playing well. Okay. They weren't surrendering goals. And then they came in here and they got lit up some 3 times. And really, really disappointing performance from Turkey in this Euro 2020. Fade My Plays is here. I'm gonna bring him in right now. What's up, brother? How's it going?
What's going on? Sorry about that. I was waiting in the wrong room, literally clicked the wrong link, was just sitting there like, when is this going to be going on? But yeah, I'm here. I'm ready. Let's talk about some fucking Euros.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, the StreamYard's been a little bit weird the last 20 minutes or so. I had a whole show description done and everything was gone. All of a sudden it was unlinked to all my platforms, so I had to throw it back together at the last second. It might have broken the original link. I'm not sure. But I'm glad to have you here.
Days ago.
All right, I'm glad to have you here. What'd you think? Let's start with today's action. What'd you think of today's action?
I mean, unfortunately, betting wise was on the team total for Italy, and they had about a bajillion chances, not to mention 40 minutes with Wales down to 10 men. But you could tell that they were just playing, once they got the lead, they were just kind of going through the motions, as was Wales. I think both sides were very content with a 1-0 Italy victory. But you watched the game, and the biggest takeaway I had from it was how good Italy looked. I mean, their group is relatively easy, but all 3 games, they've been in full control. They're the only team to not allow a goal in the group stage in I think it's 16 years.
Yeah.
So just unbelievably great play from them. And, the eye test, granted, again, they were playing the likes of Wales and Turkey and Switzerland, but, the eye test says, I think they look better than France do at the minute. The eye test says I think they look better than Portugal overall. So I just have a kind of renewed trust in kind of what's going on over there in Italy. And, shockingly, it seems like they're not even playing their best 11 and
Mhm.
still look this good. It surprises me in match day 1 and 2 that Chiesa's still not in there, and their bench is super deep. So yeah, I think they have a great chance at making a run, especially with all these home games.
Yeah, and how good was Chiesa today? I mean, he finally gets the
I mean,
opportunity, and I love watching that kid play.
it
Like,
drives me insane he's not in the team. And also,
yeah,
there were a couple of I was screaming at the television because there was a couple of chances that people just weren't giving him the ball in open space,
yeah,
and I'm like, what are you doing? Get it together.
hmm
But
yeah.
yeah,
And
he's a great
what
player.
and what's impressive, and what you sort of alluded to there, Italy's yet to show a weakness.
Mm.
Where do you attack them? I mean, they're yet. I mean, Portugal showed the weakness yesterday. It was
Yep.
made. Germany blew it wide open and showed everybody how to beat them, which is going to be something they're going to have to contend with now. But
Yeah.
with Italy, where do you go at them? I mean, they change pieces, they change players. The game stays the same. They continue
It's
to play their
interesting.
game.
There's an element to Italy that, and this is kind of what I was saying when talking about their Switzerland game, is there's a very specific way they play, a very specific way that their team uses the build up, and they like to control the ball, but they actually do positive things with it versus a team like Spain that just sits on it for the whole time. But again, and this comes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, is that they haven't really played anyone that's really pushing them.
Right.
And the only team that could have really pushed them was Switzerland, but Switzerland plays the exact same style of play, and they are not as good by miles.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see when they go up against a better side that actually comes at them and has a really dynamic attack, what it's going to be like. I think a nightmare matchup for Italy would be the likes of France, because I think France would do to Italy what they did to Germany. Just sit back, soak up pressure, and then break with unbelievable pace.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. And I think Belgium would be an entertaining matchup for Italy as well, because I think they could handle the ball movement and the player movement of Italy well, and it could break. They got all kinds of pace to break to attack on the break against them. But we saw Marco Verratti come in today. He hadn't played yet. Him and Jorginho together make a very nice tandem there in midfield. And then we saw
what riches you have when Verratti is not even there. You're still 3-0.
Right, 8 changes in total from match day 2. So we even got, like I just said just before you came on, we even got to see the backup goalkeeper today for a little bit. That's how comfortable Italy is. I think they literally may have come as close as you can get to getting all 26 players into a match at some point in this group stage. Job well done. They can only control who's in front of them. They can't control that they're not playing better teams. So they showed up. They did their business. On the other end, Wales, like you said, I think they knew the result of Turkey and Switzerland, and were content to just lose 1-0 because that keeps them ahead on the goal difference, puts them in second place. Gareth Bale probably had the best chance of the game for Wales.
I mean,
and it was interesting. It was on a set piece that Italy had just made a wholesale substitution on, and somehow the ball gets knocked to the far post, headed across the face of goal, and there's Gareth Bale completely unmarked, but he can't get it on goal.
And also, I mean, talk about not just that golden chance. They also had, for some reason, they got the ball in the box and had loads of players and just kind of drilled it out and didn't do anything with it. I mean, Wales had their chances. I mean, I wouldn't say in any way they deserve to win or deserve to even draw that game, but they did have a couple of chances. But I think, again, it goes back to a lot of it was just Italy sleeping, being content to not really. I mean, Italy's through no matter what, unless some crazy loss to Wales by 4 goals, they'd be in the top of the table or top of the group anyway. So I really feel like today was not a great measure of Italy, other than seeing just how deep they are. But the thing about Wales that I'm shocked that they're going through, but they are. Well done to them.
Yeah.
Italy with their B squad, and their B squad is so much better than a lot of the other teams out there, period. But I mean, Wales just is exposed. I mean, in the Switzerland game as well, Wales they are going to be torn apart by somebody. And I think if this was match day 1, this would have been a 4-0 win for Italy.
But they were lucky to get them last.
Destroyed. Yeah, I was shocked at just like the amount of gaps they leave. They're a lot like Scotland, and they're playing with so much passion. But I mean, they just get their foot in, and they're going to get a red card here and there. I mean, the red card was very harsh, but at the same time, studs up is always going to be one, and especially when the ball's nowhere near you. But I wasn't convinced.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought it was a little bit harsh too. I didn't see any intent to. He was late. That's all it was. He arrived late.
He was late, but the studs were up. So what are you going to do?
The studs were up. Yeah. I'll go through the two sets of 11 real quick. Wales played a 3-4-3. Danny Ward back in goal. Joe Rodon, Ethan Ampadu, who was the player who ended up getting sent off, and Chris Gunter are the three in the back. Connor Roberts, Joe Morel, Joe Allen, Nico Williams in midfield, and then the attack is the well-known trio. Daniel James of Manchester United, Aaron Ramsey of Juventus, and Gareth Bale. Believe his loan is up, so he's back at Real Madrid officially now, or maybe on July 1st he's officially back at Real Madrid. But that is a pretty good front three. Plenty of pace in it. Daniel James, I think, has been pretty good in this tournament. Actually, I think he's shown. He's shown well in these three matches. For Italy, 4-3-3 they played. Donnarumma, of course, in goal. Rafael Toloi comes in. Bonucci gets the start and the armband. He's partnered today with Alessandro Bastoni. And Emerson gets a shot at left back today. Jorginho, Verratti, and Matteo Pessina in midfield. And their front three, Andrea Bellotti, who had a million chances, it seemed like. He partners with Federico Chiesa. Yeah, Federico Chiesa and Federico Bernardeschi. So that's the makeshift Italian team. Like we said, 8 changes from match day 2.
Yeah,
it's a nice luxury, isn't it, to have this type of second line? I mean, if you're Italy, you're probably feeling comfortable in the fact that if anybody is sent off, if anybody is injured, I don't think there's anybody irreplaceable in the squad. There's another guy waiting to come in, other than Donnarumma, right? But as far as the outfield players, it looks like, you could pretty much substitute anybody that you have an answer for anybody that might go missing.
And what's nice is not only do you have an answer, but a lot of their players are very versatile in terms of they can play, on the wings, they can play in the midfield as a holding midfielder, as an attacking midfielder. They have very versatile players. And as outlined by Verratti, I mean, he wasn't even in there for match day 1 or 2, comes in today and plays kind of that holding midfielder role that he does for PSG, but he still gets into the box. He's still dynamic as a player. It's a very dangerous side, top to bottom.
Yeah, no doubt at all. And, the way they move the ball is just, there's a comfort and a confidence in their play right now. And they know each other. They look like a club team is actually what it looks like. It doesn't look like a selection of players that have come together to play for a country. They look like a team that plays together all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the beauty of having, I think during the broadcast, they said it today that you look at a team like Wales and you have a couple of your players in the 3rd division in England. You have a couple of your players in the top tier. You have a couple of your players in, the French 2nd league. But I think it was 8 out of the starting 11 for Italy all play in the Serie A. So if they don't play together, they know each other's game extremely well. They're all speaking to each other in the same language all the time, whether for club or country. It's just a situation where I think it really benefits those teams where, not that England are ever successful, but one of the most dangerous England teams was back in the early 2000s when literally 8 of the starting 11 played for Manchester United. And it's because they have so much ability to read each other without having to get used to it. And I think that will always be a benefit. Like when Spain won the World Cup, you have over half your players play for 2 teams.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
And at that time, the 2 best teams in the world.
Exactly.
It is always good to build, when you can, to build a national team around a core from a club team, because then you're just adding pieces versus starting from scratch. Yeah, and they did say, like you said, they said 22 of the 26 players are in Serie A, and they're all everyday players. They're not just in the Serie A. Some of the players on other teams could be in the top flight, but down the pecking order, fighting for minutes. And then they said the 4 that are not in the Serie A are split between PSG and Chelsea. So even within the ones not in the league, they're only coming from 2 clubs, you know?
Yeah, not exactly a slouches there.
No, not just anybody.
Champions League winners and, perennial winners.
Semifinalists, yeah. Okay, so the goal ends up coming in the 39th minute. It's Pessina. It's off a set piece. It was beautiful. He just got enough of a redirection on it. The ball had eyes, found its way into the far post.
No.
And, they saw the result out after that. I think they were comfortable. They never were. Again, 3 matches. I'm yet to see them really put under any type of stress. Always comfortable in all 3 matches.
If you're an Italy fan, you don't have too many clenching moments.
No, it was a pretty relaxing group phase for them.
Yeah.
Of course, better teams are waiting in the horizon, and they will be tested. But half the field, well, not half, but a quarter of the field is going to go home at the end of the week.
Exactly.
So you're already advancing. Plus, they, like you said, they have the advantage of playing at home until the semifinals. So they have 2 more home games if they win. And one of them's against England. So they can take out the host. Well, if England wins the group, of course. But they can take out the host of the finals at their stadium. And maybe that brings me to the other topic. I've been meaning to bring this up. What do you think of having all these hosts? It's starting to seem like the teams playing at home are all doing better than those who are not playing at home.
Yes and no. I mean, I would argue that it's obviously a huge help, but how's Turkey doing?
Right.
They look terrible. They've been terrible. They've lost every match, and deservedly so. And all of their games have been in Budapest. I mean, I think a lot of the host nations are good sides. Like, it just so happens that the Dutch are in the easiest group there is. And, and they're playing in the Netherlands and, Denmark, it's not going well for them playing in Copenhagen. England look like absolute shit. I mean, they were in England and
you wouldn't have known it from the crowd, though.
Pardon?
Scotland fan, you wouldn't have known it from the Scotland fans out shouted them out, saying them.
Yeah,
it was quite remarkable.
That's the nature of the English fans as well, because they're so jaded, knowing that eventually, some way, they're going to fuck it up. But no, I mean, I meant for the Croatia game. This is the first England. I don't know how much you know about it, but half of my family's all over there, and they've been locked down. And so to have fans in the stadium in Wembley, and it's the first England match in so long, and it's a team that actually could do something. It's coming home feeling all over again.
Yeah.
And still, it's just like they were barely able to eke out a 1-0 win against Croatia. I mean, I would argue for some teams it's a massive boost, and it's showing, and it will continue to benefit them. And then for other teams, it's it's great to have for them, but it's not. I would argue that we're going to see the actual effect of home teams when it comes time to in the knockout stage, when we're seeing at Wembley England taking on the Netherlands in the semifinal, or Portugal in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, it's. I'm wondering, and I'm thinking that this may be a little bit of a test run for the future, because we hear all the time about the immense burden it is to host one of these competitions, the amount of money that has to be pumped into infrastructure, this is a lot less of a burden by spreading it out among a large group of countries. Each one gets a city. A lot of countries can come up with one stadium in one host city without spending much. Yeah. I'm wondering if, the next one's slated to be in Germany. I'm wondering if after that we start to see this format for this competition.
It makes sense. And then also, the benefit of the reason why countries bid on the Olympics and the World Cup and the Euros and all that is because of the revenue that they get from tourism and all of that. But by the way, there's another country that hasn't really benefited being at home. Germany and Munich still lost at home their opening game to France. But, I mean, the thing that I like about it a lot is that you get these not just different stadiums, but you're having teams kind of in some way or another mimic the regular season. All of these players are traveling, especially the top tier teams. They're traveling for the Champions League, so going country to country. And it's a way to embrace kind of a bigger ability for more fans and for different fans that aren't able to afford to be. I can't, as a German fan, some people may not be able to travel to England to go to Wembley, but they can go to Munich. I mean, I think they're giving that opportunity. And also, like you said, the infrastructure, if you're not already set up for it, like people think the Olympics that happen in the United States, right? There was the LA Olympics. Yeah, there was Atlanta. Yeah, there was Squaw Valley, but it's still spread out. It's not just like one stadium and you look at Brazil and it's like what it did to that country. I mean, and now they have a ghost stadium that they built for the World Cup and it doesn't do anything. And it just took all that money and energy and resources and it's just literally a boondoggle. So I think it's a great way to say, hey, Brazil, you have these amazing football stadiums already built, but you don't have the infrastructure to house all these teams and all these people. So let's combine it and make it South American. Let's do in Argentina, and Chile and Brazil. So I think you're onto something there with it being a good model moving forward. I can see the only problem with it would be, how do you decide who gets the final, who gets the semis?
And you may run into having the same hosts every tournament and would
that be so bad? I mean, they have 5-star venues for a reason.
Right. What you would need, and I think they did this right, they didn't treat every host as a host. They had to qualify, and they didn't just get seeded because they're the host like you normally have when you have one or two. Because otherwise, I mean, you would have the top teams in the world guaranteed, not guaranteed, but pretty much guaranteed the easiest groups. But the way they did it, I think it's tough when you draw two hosts in your group, and you're playing two teams on their home pitches. But I do think it is a model going forward that's probably going to be looked at, and that what could stand in the way could be the politics of football because it's so dirty and so corrupt. But a place like Budapest or Copenhagen are never going to host a major tournament otherwise. Baku in Azerbaijan, you're taking it, like you said, to places and to fans that otherwise would never have a chance to host an event of this if they had to, host it all in one. And with the debacle of World Cup 2022 being in Qatar, I think that probably blows up the whole model of a single host going forward. I mean, we're already... I
mean... I not to get into it, but we talk about the corruption of the Super League. Jesus Christ. On Qatar. And also it's going to ruin all of 2022 football in general because it completely takes away from all of the leagues. So I don't know. It's absolutely insane to me that they allowed that. And it's obviously corruption, but shit.
Yeah, it is. And, it really, and then, COVID hits a year and a half before that. We're not going to have a normal calendar until after that World Cup. So we're looking at probably 23, 24 as a hopeful return to what we were used to before with a normal calendar with international dates and, with summer tournaments. But, I mean, they're already jammed up. They're playing World Cup qualifiers, 3 matches per window now, all the way to the World just to squeeze them in. It ended up working out in the end because I don't know that they would have been able to run a World Cup next summer, given how behind qualifying is. They would have had to probably cancel this competition and the Copa America and play qualifiers through the summer. But, it is interesting. And I think that going forward, like I said, this is kind of very Gold Cup-ish even. You see it in CONCACAF where we've had situations where like Mexico plays their group at home, the United States plays at home, and then Canada plays at home, and then they come together for the knockout stages in 2 or 3 cities, and you just start to spread games out. I mean, it's a lot of traveling, but it's easier than the huge burden, like we said, of hosting a Euro, a World Cup, or an Olympics. And
that's also another thing. And again, call me, I don't know, call me soccer elitist, but it seems to be this weird situation where is it really benefiting the people of a country, not the politicians, not the big business owners, the people of a country to build all these crazy stadiums like they're doing in Qatar or like they did for Brazil versus if England hosts the World Cup, they have all the stadiums already done.
Oh yeah.
They don't need to do anything, literally zero. Same with the US, same with Germany, same with France. And I'm not saying leave it to only those countries,
right?
But just I feel like there is something to be said for the economic impact, the social impact, the environmental impact is so much less using host countries that have some of this built already. You know, like a great doing kind of taking this model that we're talking about one step further is have these other countries like Qatar and all that, have them each build one stadium rather than 5. Because what are you going to do with those 5 anyway after the World Cup? It's never coming back there. So like build one and then have one in each place and all of that. Like, I mean, Finland, they can host an actual match. You know, they don't have to build anything because they have their own leagues. Norway, Sweden, they have their own leagues. You know,
at most they would have to add some stands to reach a capacity of 50,000 or something like that.
And if you host a group stage match there, then you know what? Guess what? There's less tickets. Like, you know, be in the city, it is. And feel the electricity, but you know, not all stadiums are made equal.
Right, and like you said, England, for example, has a great highway system. It's easy to get about the country. You could even expand it and do it in the entire UK. You could include Ireland if you wanted to.
Yeah, Northern Ireland, Scotland.
Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England could host a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Cardiff. I mean, they have unbelievable stadium there.
Sure.
You know, you go to Dublin and they have the O2. It's unbelievable.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
There's so many places that already exist. It seems crazy to build ones that will then not only never be used again, but I mean, we've heard stories of, you know, deaths and it just exploding local communities and just it's not worth it for football when none of the players are going to enjoy it. And, you know, who the fuck is traveling to Qatar to go and see this?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see.
I know.
Right.
I sure tell I'm not. No. And also, they're because Qatar is a bajillion degrees during the summer, they have to do it during the winter, which not only screws up the leagues, but now you're asking fans, you know, of these other teams in Western countries to be like, oh, you know, fuck Christmas with my family. My one break, I'm going to go to Qatar
to support my team. Right.
That just, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd meant to touch on this one in one of the other episodes, and we never get the chance. And today, with only 2 matches, there's more time to talk about these things. So I thought I would dive into that a little bit. And I tend to agree with you on just about everything you said there. And I think this is really going to unfold in an interesting way, because these tournaments do have we talk about the advantages, but how often does the host actually go on to win these tournaments when you really think about it? I mean, they're carried to a certain level. We've seen hosts go beyond their expectation, but eventually reality sets in, and you find an opponent that's just not enough to overcome. But
I mean, the best example of all time is Brazil and Germany.
Of course. And Brazil they were not a semifinal level team that year. They overperformed to even get there, and then reality hit them real hard, and Russia got to the quarterfinals on, basically that energy of playing at home. Korea back in 2002 gets to the semifinals, but did anyone believe they were ever going to win it? I mean,
more times than not, it makes it almost an easier path for whoever faces them.
True, absolutely. How much did you see of Switzerland and Turkey? I didn't see much of this.
I tried to watch simultaneously as much as I can. Obviously, because I had a little bit more money on the Italy game, I watched more of that, which was obviously the wrong choice because the Switzerland game was electric. I mean, an absolute worldie from Shaqiri. But it was good, and it comes back. Obviously, I've gone back and watched a lot of the play breakdown and the highlights, and it comes back to this is how Switzerland operate. Is if you look at the statistics, they had even possession for the most part, more shots on goal, but it was pretty even, but they just made their shots count because they're not afraid to take them. I mean, their first 2 goals were amazing shots from outside the box. You can't say this is a Swiss team that's going to pick you apart. It's not. It's a team that's going to go forward, press you, impress you, and shoot as much as they can from anywhere on the pitch because they have the talent to, do what Shaqiri did and put it in every now and then, or make a deep cross from 30 yards out and Mbolo get ahead to it. So I think Switzerland is a great example of a team with a lot of fight and a team that does not subscribe to the fact that they're underdogs. They play like everyone is the same opponent and they are going to play their game against them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And they knew. I guess again, it's a case of another team that won the game they had to win.
Yeah.
They took care of business and they won what they had to win in order to advance. I think they're going to advance. I think 4 points is going to be enough. We'll see. It's going to be close because we got a lot of teams right now with 3 already. So going into the final match days, I don't like where Portugal's sitting right now, for example, because it's looking like as these teams keep getting 4 points, they need to get a result against France, which is going to be very hard to come by. Yeah. And, that goal difference isn't going to come into play when you're a point behind all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I was hoping for Turkey to win this or for a draw just to keep Switzerland at 2 points, but it didn't happen. Switzerland did what they needed to do, like we said, and, goals from Seferovic and Shaqiri, 2 from Shaqiri. He was on FotMob named the man of the match, and another good match for Steven Zuber as well. He got a high rating. And,
oof. God, I'm just looking at the tables right now, and Portugal not only they
the only good thing is because Portugal plays on the final day, they will know exactly what they have to do when they go on.
That is very true.
Whereas Switzerland has to now sit around and wait for the next couple days to see what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, you also got this is interesting though. I think they have a road if they didn't even win because thank God for them, Spain is so trash.
Yeah.
That Spain's final match is against Slovakia. Spain has to win.
Yeah.
They most likely will win. Slovakia will be on, a negative goal difference and 3 points. You have Scotland and Croatia. Croatia must win to get anything.
Right.
But if they don't, then you have Scotland and Croatia, sitting on 2 points if they draw.
Yeah, and then that will do it.
Yeah, if I think
as long as Hungary don't pull off the upset of
and
beat Germany,
Belgium facing Finland.
Yeah.
Even if Belgium rotates their entire squad, Finland should lose. So that's another. So there is a path for them if they don't get anything. But I think the hinge of kind of everything happening in all the group stages is one of tomorrow's matches, and that's Ukraine and Austria.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That game will completely change the landscape for people going through because I genuinely think they're both going to play for a draw. I think this is going to be a 0-0. And it's actually in the betting markets. I've never seen it before. A draw is the odds-on favorite.
Yeah.
I've never seen
when it benefits both teams, It's interesting. And this Turkish team, was so touted by some people as the quote-unquote dark horse.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
I said in the opening just before you came on that what happened here is because it's not like they weren't in good form coming in. I mean, their results leading into this would suggest what people were predicting. And all of a sudden they come into these 3 matches and they just get smacked up. And
and they look terrible.
They look terrible. They're leaking goals. They look like they didn't have a plan, or the plan they did have didn't work, and they didn't have anything to fall back on. They didn't have any kind of adjustments made. 3 losses. I mean, they're the first team, they're the only team, I think, with 0 points right now.
And North Macedonia.
North Macedonia.
There's a couple that have 0, but they've played less games. Denmark has 0. But they have another game.
Right.
I can't imagine, other than North Macedonia, I don't think another team will have 0. And Turkey's a home country as well. They played all of their matches.
They played in Baku. Yeah. Yep. And who would have expected Turkey to come in here and get 0? I thought they would be a third, if not second place. In this
I took them second in this group. Or no, excuse me, third. I thought Switzerland.
Yeah.
What a surprise though from Wales. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I know that. I didn't expect it from them either. I mean, we've seen so little of Gareth Bale, and
he's been terrible.
And he's been and what we have seen has been terrible, And Aaron Ramsey, they're different players when they play for Wales than when they play in their club teams. There's a little bit of effort there or maybe not effort, but there's just a drive and a familiarity, and there's a comfort in playing in their national team.
Yeah.
And 100%. Again, just like Switzerland, Wales won the one match they had to win.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said, though, about, I think, that it comes down to like a team's makeup. And I'm not trying to hate. I swear I'm a fan of them. My wife is, British, and my family is British, and I swear I'm a fan of England. But I genuinely feel like that's a big reason why they kind of are perennial losers or perennial choke artists, at least in recent years. Well, in the last, almost 60 years now. But it's because there's some inkling and feeling in every Brit I've ever met in my life that they know at one point it's all going to fall apart. And that could be, a British mentality. That could be just the heartache that they've suffered as football fans of, England. But England don't have that killer instinct that when they need to win, they have one game and they have to get all 3 points, and they need, 2 goals they need to win by 2 goals for goal difference. You just know they're not going to get it. It's like when last World Cup, when we were all watching that Croatia game, it's like you have Kieran Trippier hit that absolute worldly free kick in the first 15 minutes, and then Croatia levels it up. And as you get to the 80th minute, you just know everyone's like, oh my God, they're going to fuck this up. Oh my God, they're going to do something terrible, as opposed to, come on, like, get it, and I think that mentality plays into a lot of teams, like with Turkey. I mean, you get embarrassed in front of your home fans in Budapest twice. You go into this last day knowing we have no road moving forward, really, unless we absolutely destroy Switzerland. I just think you could see them playing as though they're going home. And, I think that's something that you don't often see. Like another 0-point team, Denmark, they have all fight. It is nothing.
Oh yeah, they're gonna fight till the death.
Yeah, and in fact, I have them to win tomorrow. I think it's a lot, just because of the fact that it'll be in front of their home crowd. If they win the right way, they can go through, which would be an amazing story because of Christian Eriksen, obviously. But it's like you have teams that are willing to put in that fight. And from what I've seen so far, Turkey, Spain, Croatia, Poland, Hungary are not those teams this year.
Yeah, and you can compare that to, for example, the German attitude, where they're never counting themselves out.
No.
And you can tell them how bad they are all you want.
Yeah.
They don't believe it. They just keep going. And it's never over to the Germans until the final whistle blows. No. I don't know. Even in the German league, you see teams come back all the time, and they fight to the very, very end. And everyone had written Germany off after that loss to France. And then, it's like a, hey, you forgot about us kind of thing yesterday. Where classic German way of doing things, completely calculated. They did their homework, and they said, we're going to beat you like this. You stop us. You force us. And they, and they continue to be able to overload the 2 flanks, send in great service balls all game. And, they could have easily won 6 or 7-1 yesterday.
Yeah.
That could have been an absolute massacre.
It really in reality should have been, but very quick side note story, but I completely agree with you about the Germans. One of my favorite stories from this year was randomly in the middle of the year, I took Leipzig and Leverkusen. I picked a draw, sent it out as one of my plays, and almost immediately Leverkusen score. And I was like, yeah, shit. And then in the 60th minute, Leverkusen score again. The 61st minute, they score again, 3-0. And I was like, well, done watching this game, lost bet, whatever. From the 89th minute to the 94th minute, Leipzig score 3, finishes as a 3-3 draw. It's like Germans do not know how to stop trying.
Right.
And I think the same, for the most part with Portugal as well. I think they're very, very much in that category of a team that just like, we could be down 3-0, 4-0. We're going to fucking fight. And you saw that. That's why they got.
Yeah. I think we lost him for a second there. But yeah, what he's saying, he's right. The Germans will fight to the end. Portugal were able to get a goal back, which made a big, big difference. It's going to make a big difference in the goal difference, but it looks like they're going to need a point. I don't know. We'll know on Wednesday when we get there. Let me see if what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a quick break right now. All right, we're going to see if we can get him back on, and we will be right back here on Parking the Bus. Okay, he's coming in. We'll be right back. We're going to take a real short break and give me about 30 seconds or so to get him back on. All right,
Don't
there
know
you
what
are.
happened there. My bad.
That's all right. No worries. No worries at all. Yeah, as you were saying, you were about to say, the last thing I heard you say was that that's why Portugal got one back there, and that goal
Yeah.
could end up being the difference. Is that Jota goal? And again, for me as a Portugal fan, obviously, and all the criticism has always been laid on Ronaldo for his national team performances or his lack of desire. I mean, he made a goal and assist out of very little yesterday. He had very little service. That second goal is him not giving up on the ball and managing to put it back across the face of goal so that Jota can put it in. And I think they were a little bit happy to be 4-2 because towards the end, he made a substitution to kind of keep that goal difference and take their chances now on the final day, knowing they'll know exactly what they have to do. And I think they're against anybody else. I still trust them. This is 4 games in a row against Germany that kind of went that way. And
it won't seem again until the final unless
right. And if we get there, we'll worry about it then.
Exactly.
But France may, for them, be a better match. Even though they're a better team, I don't know that they're going to be they're going to look to exploit the weaknesses quite that way and that viciously, if you will. I think France have their own way of playing that matches up and is more consistent with the way we want to play. And I think that's why a lot of times we cancel each other out a little bit. And it happened in Nations League too. We played them twice and one was a draw. They won the other one, but there was a lot of canceling out of the two teams. So, but yeah, to get back to that German attitude, it's just, I admire it so much that they just, like you said, their Leipzig puts in 3 goals in the last 5 minutes of the match. And there's just no dying in those teams, in the way they play, in their culture. Really, it's a cultural strength.
And it's interesting as well to see the teams that look at, I don't know, I feel like there's some teams where you can see that international competitions are such a source of pride. And it comes across, in their gameplay and their fans. And I'm not saying
even in the anthem, it comes across for some teams in the way that they belt out their anthem.
Yeah, and I'm not in any way trying to say that some teams don't try. I'm just simply saying that there are definitely those that make a point of their national teams being a massive focus of all of their players from the time that they start playing football.
Yeah. So 3-1 to Switzerland, like we said. Again, nightmarish group stage for Turkey. Probably it has to be one of their worst performances ever at a finals in any competition. Italy wins the group with 9 points, 7 goals scored, none allowed. Classic Italian, and more goals than we used to see from them. So it's a nice evolution of what their football is becoming, and I like where they're going. Even if this isn't the tournament they win, they're definitely going in the right direction. And they have a core group that they're going to keep for some years here. Even as the Immobiles and the Chiellinis and the Bonucci's move on, there's definitely a core group that they can build around.
Absolutely.
Wales with the second place finish, 4 points plus 1 goal difference. Only 3 goals scored, but only 2 goals allowed. And when you allow less than you score, you're gonna end up with some points. Switzerland also on 4, but they are at -1, so they're gonna wait and see what happens. And of course, Turkey with 0. All right, you want to look at tomorrow's matches?
Let's do it.
A few tomorrow, so we got 4 tomorrow, right? Yeah,
4.
So at the early game
all
tomorrow,
at the same time, right? No, there's
two and then 2.
Yeah.
So the early games is in Group C, North Macedonia versus the Netherlands and Ukraine versus Austria. Netherlands have 6 points. Again, we've talked about this game, how this one's attractive to us because you got a North Macedonia side that's out there to just play, and that's playing on pride, and they're gonna I believe, be even excited to go against a team the caliber of the Netherlands. And you have a
Mhm.
Netherlands side that's already through, and they're going to be managing minutes. They're probably going to be like anyone holding on to a yellow card is probably going to sit to not risk being suspended for the round of
Yep.
16. So it's a game where North Macedonia could steal something. They're definitely going to make it difficult for the Netherlands, I think. They're going to push them, and they're going to make
Yeah.
an entertaining match out of it. And then you got the Ukraine and Austria, like you said, which is a game you're pretty sure is going to end up in a draw because that is the going favorite right now, as both teams. It's not beneath either one of those teams to go out there and just get a draw and kind of agree to kind of just keep the ball amongst themselves
Mhm.
and see out the 90 minutes. What are you thinking in either of these two matches tomorrow?
Yeah, again, I think that it's an interesting case where what you said is exactly correct. North Macedonia is playing for pride; they know they're out, but the line is just wild that they're plus 1,000 or plus 1,000. I'm not saying I would ever bet on them, but the idea that you can get 2 goals head start on the spread at minus 115 is nuts. I don't think Netherlands is going to go out here and smack them 4-0. In fact, North Macedonia hasn't lost by that big a margin yet. I mean, they've allowed 5 goals and they've scored 2. So,
and they've scored in how many straight games now?
I think it's now 17.
17 straight games, right? So you would like them to score.
I see both teams scoring, but then again, so do the books. So North Macedonia in both their match day 1 and match day 2, the side they were playing, and both teams to score, parlaying those two together, were over plus 300. And for tomorrow against the Netherlands, who is a defensive side than either Ukraine or Austria and a better attacking side, it's only plus 185. So I think the books kind of see that while North Macedonia may not be winning this game, the idea that they can get something out of it is very, very plausible. I see exactly what you said. Netherlands putting out a heavily rotated squad just because they're through. They've won their group, barring a loss, and Ukraine or Austria winning 3-0, which won't happen. But my favorite look in this is just both teams to score, because that they will, or North Macedonia +2 at minus 115. I mean, those are great prices for me, considering this is a game that Netherlands don't need. It'll be heavily rotated, and North Macedonia, as we've seen so far, will throw everything they have at this game.
Yeah, no doubt. And Ukraine, Austria, both teams on 3 points. Probably both liking their chances with 4 points. The goal difference. They're both on 0 at goal difference. So
I have never, ever in my life seen a draw before kickoff be minus money. I've never seen that, ever. Not once. I've seen it in like the 60th minute of a game.
Sure.
But to see minus 115 for the draw tomorrow is the most insane thing ever. Like I might put, a half unit on Austria and Ukraine, just outright, because you're getting ridiculous money. I mean, Austria's plus 295, Ukraine's plus 270. You put half a unit on each, you've made money. Like it's just, it's just, don't get me wrong. I think this is a 0-0 draw. The play for me is under 2. But it's just wild that the books think they're both going to lay down and just literally, stand on the ball for 90 minutes.
Yeah. It's going to be like that Simpsons episode where the halfback plays it to the fullback, plays it to the halfback, and the crowd riots.
That is exactly what it is.
So that's the early 2 games. Then we have Finland taking on Belgium and Russia taking on Denmark. Belgium on 6 points, of course. Finland still with an outside shot, so they're going to come to play. They're another team that does not quit, does not give up. They're very rarely in these final tournaments, so they're gonna live it up because they don't know when they're gonna qualify again. They're gonna leave it all out there. And then Russia and Denmark, we've said I also like Denmark in this one. I've liked Denmark since I looked at the rest of the matches after the Christian Eriksen thing happened, and after they unfortunately dropped 3 points to Finland. They put in a solid effort against Belgium. There's no reason to think they can't do it again.
Yeah, I mean, if they play like they did against Belgium for the
Mhm.
first half, and Belgium is a much
Sure.
better side than
Mhm.
Russia.
Of course.
So if they play how they did against Russia, and they're playing in Copenhagen, and
Mhm.
it's the Christian Eriksen, not legacy, but tribute game, and it's their
Right.
opportunity. If they win, they go through. Depending on the rest of the table or rest of the groups, but like it's such a massive game with everything saying this is Denmark's, shining moment,
Right.
and Russia have looked terrible. I think this is a Denmark, not blowout, but a very, very solid victory.
Yeah, and with that, I think Denmark, whether they advance or not with the win, they won't know. They'll go with their heads held high with
Absolutely.
finishing on the right foot.
Yeah, they'll all be wearing
Um,
number 10 underneath their
of
kits.
course. And yeah, they're playing at home, like you said. They're in Copenhagen, so they'll have the support of their crowd behind them. And really, they're another team that will play for pride and just does things the right way. And they're not gonna lay down, obviously. And we talked about the last time we talked about them, what they must be going through emotionally and
Yeah, I mean,
and just mentally, the mental exhaustion of what they've been through, and how it would even maybe be best for their mental health to be eliminated.
yeah,
But they're not just gonna lay down.
no
They're
way.
gonna go out fighting, and that's the type of character they have. And I think we're gonna see the best of them tomorrow. And I expect Belgium to take care of business against Finland. I mean, all the heart in the world that Finland has, I don't see it being enough to, even if Belgium rotates their squad, like Italy, like the Netherlands. They're deep. They can rotate players. Like I said, I'm hoping to see the young player Jeremy Doku tomorrow at some point.
Yeah.
He's yet to get in. He's only 19 years old, but I mean, you got, even if just these names, it's Meunier, De Bruyne, Witsel, both Hazards, Yanni Carrasco, Lukaku, Eden Hazard. It's just there is such a plethora of options.
Yeah, I mean, if you could bet on who's going to sit tomorrow, I'd say Eden Hazard because he's made of glass, and Lukaku just because he's so important to the side, and De Bruyne because he's been injured. But I mean, Belgium, all the players that sat on the bench for the first two match days, if they were the ones to play tomorrow, they still have way too much for Finland. And I can also see this as, being slightly what Italy did and have, 6 rotations in the squad and then get a lead and then bring on other players. Obviously, don't play anyone with a yellow card and all that. But, I just see Belgium taking control of this game and then, subbing out all of their starters to make sure that they're well rested.
Yeah, and even then, I didn't even mention Christian Benteke or Dries Mertens. I mean, the names. I'm looking at the names now, and it's like they just keep going on. Den Donker,
I mean, yeah, and you look at Finland's defense. Like, what would they do against Benteke? I mean, just bin balls into him. It's very much what we've seen with Lukaku. And Finland, again, we've said this from the beginning. And I'm not saying any negativity towards Finland, but they were able to take advantage of a very terrible situation by no fault of their own. This was
in a very professional manner.
We're playing this game, and everyone was professional about it. But they should not have any points. They should not have any goals.
Under normal circumstances, they lose that game. Yeah, absolutely. So, that's what we're looking at tomorrow. What'd you think of the last couple of days? We haven't talked in a few days, so we've kind of veered into it a little bit inside conversation here. We've talked about England and about the Portugal-Germany game, but what were your thoughts overall on Friday and Saturday's action?
Yeah, I think that we saw a lot of examples of teams that have that fight, like you said, teams that don't. I think it was very telling to see Spain get a draw with Poland. That for me is just confirming that Spain will be eliminated pretty damn fast when it gets to the knockout stages, or sooner if they lose to Slovakia.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that I took away from the weekend that was very, very surprising was France. I thought they would run through Hungary. They looked not lost, but just haphazard. It could be that they didn't care because they, beat Germany and they knew a point was really all they needed. But it was just for a team that had 3 points and needed more points to go through, playing against the bottom of their group, I expected them to run riot. I put, an alt line spread at France -2. I thought they'd win 3-4-0. And I just, watching that game, didn't see anything that impressed me, didn't see anything that made me think this is a dangerous team. Now, maybe that will change when they face, a team in the knockout stages because they care more. But the France I saw play Hungary and the France I saw play Germany, I wouldn't say that they're a lock to beat Portugal. And I wouldn't say that they're a lock to really beat anyone that's going to go to the knockout stages, barring, Wales, obviously, and teams like that. But that really surprised me. I thought they'd get more out of it. I was very surprised with the fight in the Czech Republic, the fact that they got something out of the weekend, or Friday, rather. I thought that was very impressive. I did not expect them to be anywhere near as solid as they've looked. Croatia is just, the old is getting to them. And unfortunately, their young players, we talked about this, do not respect the old players the way they should. So it just needs to be a case of a full, overhaul, and reboot. That's how it is. The Netherlands looked solid. Belgium, their fight back against the Danes was impressive. But yeah, my biggest takeaway was England is shit and France do not look as dangerous as I would have thought.
England-Scotland looked like one of those FA Cup ties where you get the Premier League team taking on the League One or the low championship side, and they just can't break them down.
Yeah.
Where the lower league side just celebrates the 0-0 like a victory. It really felt like that for 90 minutes. But again, I was on that night frustrated, and I have no dog in the fight. I have no emotional attachment to England, but just watching, knowing a guy like Jadon Sancho is on the bench, and just not, I don't understand. That game was screaming for him because Scotland are playing deep. You need a guy to run at them at that point. We've seen what Germany did. We've seen what France did to Germany. When you get defenders turned around facing their own goal, that's when trouble happens for them defensively. And England never got in behind and forced Scotland's backline to turn and face their own goal. So they kept the game in front of them all the time. And then it's easy to cut out passing lanes. It's easy to cut out crosses because you can see them from a mile away, whereas the attacker has to turn. And the attacker is backpedaling to try to get on the end of a header while the defender is coming forward to it. The advantage is always going to go to the defender, and they're usually taller, especially when he substituted off Harry Kane and brought on Marcus Rashford. I'm saying to myself, you've lost any box presence you had. Yet your wingbacks are still whipping in crosses like Kane is still in there. And I thought the decision would have been to give Kane more help and to have him stay more in front of the goal and have him there to be on the end of those crosses versus just pulling him out, even if he wasn't playing well. I don't know. That substitution to me made them weaker versus making them stronger.
Well, it's also weird to be like, this is presumably like £120 million man, and you're taking him off the pitch. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a United fan and I love Marcus Rashford and I think he's a very dynamic player, but it is not a like for like substitute.
No, not in any way.
For Harry Kane. So you'd think, okay, there will be a tactical change, and there was none.
No.
I mean, Marcus Rashford, I would say, was more effective than Kane, at least in terms of creating dangerous chances, in and around the box. But I mean, watching that game, there were so many moments where Harry Kane was behind his wingbacks.
Yeah.
Be up front and he'd be top of the box. It's just like England looks lost. And I think that game exposed Calvin Phillips for, hey, he had one good game, but he's not the finished product yet. I mean,
right.
England is just, it's such a mystery to me because, again, another change team selection and another, mediocre to pathetic output from those players. And when you look at their squad, it's so deep and so amazing, and they just can't figure it out unless, I don't know. I was saying towards the end of that game in stoppage time when there was that, absolute scrum in the box where McTominay pretty much just laid himself on the ball to make sure that it didn't go in. But I was like, this would be the most England win ever. Absolute shit for 90 minutes. And then just a lucky bouncing off people all over the place, ball in to win it. But they didn't get it, thankfully, as a neutral, because they didn't deserve it. I mean, they did not look dangerous ever. Scotland had zero problem dealing with anything
Right.
they gave to them. And whilst when you look at the replay and you look at what happened, I think letter of the law, that was probably a penalty on Sterling. The reason it wasn't given is because you knew he was looking for it. You
Yeah.
knew that he had no options. He was running to the touchline without picking his head up, looking
Right.
anywhere. There was no danger there. So the referee was like, I'm sorry, there was contact, but you weren't doing anything with the ball. You're running out
Right.
of bounds. And it's
You still have to play the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
you
I
can't
just-
stop playing the ball. And players get away with this all the time. They stop playing the ball. They slow themselves down so that
Yep.
the defender runs into them. And they're rewarded too many times for that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But in
And
this
there's
one, the
so many-
referee just didn't give it.
there's so many instances as well where you see England being, I don't know, like they're trying to play as though they're Spain or they're
Mhm.
Italy with this ticky-tack type
Yeah.
of stuff that doesn't suit their personnel. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't like him at all as a player. I think if Sterling was a good player, he'd have 50 goals a season with the
Yeah.
amount of chances he gets at City. But he is a good player. He wouldn't be on the squad if he wasn't.
Mhm.
But between him and Marcus Rashford and Phil Foden, who's an amazing player, and Jadon Sancho, you have some of the fastest players on the pitch in any game. And yet you're
Mhm.
trying to do these, 5, 10, 15-yard passes. Why are
Yeah,
we not
the slow
bidding the
build
ball
up.
up the wings? Why are we not, releasing them? It's just unreal to watch how England play. It's like watching Tottenham this year. It's like
Mhm.
as if, when Mourinho is at United, you have a club that literally has chance to attack.
Mhm.
You have this history of just throwing men forward, getting goals. You win by scoring more than them, not by defending. And Mourinho comes in and tries to employ his park the bus mentality,
Mhm.
and the players hated it, the fans hated it, and it didn't work. And he
Mhm.
left. And it seems like that's what Southgate is doing. He's like, I'm going to be this progressive manager and, try to be much more tactical with these, a million passes to make a 1,000,000% chance goal. And it's like, that is not the
Yeah, it's very
players you want.
hipster. It's like this is the
Yeah.
new football, and we're
Yeah.
playing this,
Yeah.
and
mean,
if
if
you
they
don't
had-
like it, it's because you're not up with what's not modern. And
Well,
And
and
s-
tell me one player that does that for their
Right.
squad, for their league team. It's
Right.
like you look at Italy and you look at Spain, and all of those players do that with Barcelona, with
Yes.
Real Madrid, with Juventus, with Atalanta. But England, all these players for Liverpool, for United, for Manchester City. Manchester City is probably the only team that does that. United, Liverpool, I mean, they're all about counterattacking. They're all about pace, and you're not utilizing any of that. Tottenham is about being shit. Apparently, they've been terrible this year.
Mhm.
But I'm just so shocked watching England that has that much talent, and every single international tournament, it's like they can't figure it out.
Yeah, they exactly. I felt like it was funny because I'm talking that night, frustrated as if it's my own team, and I'm talking about like Raheem Sterling, who will not
Mm.
use his left foot playing on the. It's like
Ever.
I get that you're shooting foot and you want to create,
Mm.
but if you don't ever go left, you're never going to open up the space to go right. Everybody's
Yeah.
knows where you're going, and that's what's happening to him. It happened to him in the Champions League final too. He just
Mm.
kept trying to go from left to center to set up that shot, and it just kept getting cut out by. Even though he's got the pace, the defenders have a shorter route to the point because they know the angles and they're just going to cut it off.
Yeah.
And he's leaving the ball exposed, dribbling that way because his body is not between the defender and the ball. And he's the one that stays on. You know,
Well, that's the other. I mean,
he's the one that Southgate keeps on, and I'm like tearing my hair out for whatever reason.
yeah. And you look at Jadon Sancho, and you're like, why are you here?
Yeah,
Like, why
right.
bother showing up? Because if you're not even going to come on before 87 minutes, it's like,
Right.
I mean, he had 145 appearances. What was it? It was 140 appearances, I think, for Borussia Dortmund,
Mhm.
and 117 goal involvements, whether
Sure.
assisting or scoring.
Goal or
And it's
assist,
like,
yeah.
how is that not something that would benefit your squad?
Yeah.
And like he fits in perfectly with Rashford and
Mhm.
with Kane, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's, I'm a couch manager, I know, but
Yeah, we
England
all are,
needs to
but
get back.
maybe we're better suited to make these decisions because we look at maybe it's hard to say, but does Gareth Southgate not even pay any attention to Bellingham and Sancho because they're playing in Germany? I don't know.
Well, and why? And okay, the other thing is we said this after match day one when England beat Croatia in thoroughly uninspiring fashion.
Mhm.
You and I said this on the pod. I was like, Gareth Southgate is either a moron or a genius, but at the minute we can't really say because he's batting 1,000. But now he's not.
Now
Now
he's not,
he
right.
just got blanked by Scotland. So it's like if you do not absolutely handle your next game against Slovakia, which
Mhm.
is arguably the easiest team in the group, if you don't absolutely handle them, what do you do? Like, how can you be considered a good manager?
And they have to win the group. They're behind
Oh
on
yeah,
goal
and
difference. It's
forget
crazy.
winning the group. I mean, they have to win for pride, for
Right.
absolutely everything. I mean, wow, it's just crazy to me how poor they look. Jesus. Yeah, what is that? I'm sorry, I'm looking right now, and England has, excuse me, the Czechs, not Slovakia, the
Yeah,
Czechs,
it's Czechs.
who are leading the group.
Yeah.
And if they like genuinely, if they don't win by margin, it's a loss.
Right.
Jesus.
And
they'll probably
that'll
win
be on
1-0.
Tuesday. Yeah.
They'll probably win 1-0.
Yeah, and they'll squeak through.
Yeah, it'll be some terrible, terrible like back pass by the Czechs that they capitalize on and score completely against the run of play.
Right, exactly. And the Czechs had a good match with Croatia. We talked about that, and it's cool to watch. Schlick stand up there with his nose bleeding and converting the penalty kick, and his teammates jumping on him, all getting his blood on them, and it was a pretty nasty blow. I don't know that was a penalty kick. Watching it,
no
on
way.
VAR is it's one thing to watch on the VAR, but at live play, nobody thought it was a penalty kick.
No, you can't. But that's the other problem is everything looks worse in slow motion, man. Like,
Yes,
look at the red card today. It's like, yes, his studs were high, but it's like when you watch it frame by frame, it looks like he kicked his foot up to slam his ankle. Like,
right.
No,
that wasn't a penalty for me either, but I found it even interesting. They even entertained looking at it.
Yeah.
And then even Mark Clattenburg said on ESPN that, well, they must be looking to see if the forearm hit his nose before the ball got there or something. But he said even for him, he does, because of the way the rule is written now, it shouldn't have been a penalty. He doesn't see how that was a penalty kick, but the referee, after watching it, emphatically points to the spot. And
he really did, didn't he, as well?
Yeah. It was like he'd waited his whole life to make that call.
Yeah.
So you end up with a 1-1 draw there. Everything to play for here. Croatia's got a lot of pressure too. They're going to go into Hampden Park to play Scotland, who have shown they can be stingy. They can be tough to break down. And
Scotland's playing though with a lot behind them. Like their energy, their fight. Like Croatia, they have problems within their team.
Yes.
Scotland, it's like they have absolutely nothing to lose. They, were supposed to beat the Czechs, lost. Everyone thought they were out of the group, and now they have a chance again. I just feel like, Scotland is going to be dangerous because of the fact that they're just, throwing everything at the wall.
Yeah, and it's funny because opposite to England, they've never won anything, but they always believe they're not sitting there waiting for everything to collapse around them. They're going to go after it, and if they fall short, it's not because they didn't try.
Exactly.
And that's just their attitude. And this is Croatia for me. I said this the other night, and you wouldn't know that was a World Cup finalist 3 years ago. It's like there's almost no remnants left of that team, even though you still have your Luka Modric and your Ivan Perisic, but they're moving on in years. And like you said, the young players don't respect these older players the way they should. And they just don't look like they were ever at that level. There's been such a drop in the way they play.
No, I don't see how they score. I really don't see against Scotland. I think we're going to see very similar game to the Czechs in terms of I think a 1-1 or a 1-0 or Scotland sneaking by. But I just their team does not look together. That on the pitch, you watch them and the eye test says something's up, and
they look like a boxer or a UFC fighter that stayed around too long and is now just getting their clock cleaned. And it's like, why are you still doing this?
Yeah.
You
Stop,
don't.
please,
You're
for
making
your own
us forget what you were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's what it reminds me of.
Yeah,
All right, so
I completely agree.
that should wrap it up. We're going over an hour now. Anything else you wanna hit on tonight?
The only thing I'll say is until you see differently, don't bet on England. Because
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, the amount of people all over England and France, like -1.5, throwing them as the last piece in parlays, all that shit. We haven't seen anything to show they deserve that yet. So just hold on to your money.
Yeah, I've heard
Until
that
they show you.
this comes up sometimes because I listen to English radio from time to time. I listen to BBC Five or to Talk Sport, and they talk about how because so many English people bet, they actually move the lines because they're just betting on their own team with no information blindly. And what they're doing is they're moving those lines because they're just blindly putting money into a team and swaying the favoritism in that way. So it's always like you said, don't put your money on them just because the tide of opinion is going that way.
Yeah, I mean, the eye test usually is a pretty good sign, and I haven't seen anything from either of those two teams that would make me confident to say, it's a lock. Like Germany playing Hungary, I'm very confident. England playing the Czech Republic should destroy them 5-0. Not a chance.
But you're not confident, right?
Staying completely away from the game. Could be 0-0, 5-0, who knows?
All right. Thank you again for joining me tonight. If you're available tomorrow, I'll have you again.
Alrighty.
All right. James couldn't make it tonight. He came down with something today, so he wasn't feeling well. So unfortunately, he couldn't join us. But we'll get him on here one of these nights. If not, he'll be sending in videos as well to give some picks, and we can react to his videos if he's not able to join us. But we will be back, everybody, tomorrow, same time, same place. Okay. Those of you listening on the podcast feed, you got a special bonus segment coming up where I'm gonna recap the Brazilian League round 4 that just concluded a few minutes ago. So I'll have that for you in the morning. I'll have that by tomorrow morning for you. So look for that if you're interested. And for everybody else, we'll see you tomorrow. Day 11 tomorrow of Euro 2020. Group B and C will be concluding. So we will have some more teams qualifying, some more teams eliminated. And the tournament is going to start to take shape now, and we're going to see who has the path to get to that final at Wembley. So for Fades here, make sure you follow him at Fade My Play. Follow me at PTB_media. And we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
See ya.